Subscribe to Legends and Lore. Like and share this journey into the past. We often think we know the story of Cleopatra, a queen, a serpent, a tragic end. But have you ever truly considered the weight of her final choice? A ruler, a mother, a goddess on earth, choose not just death, but a death so steeped in myth and ritual? It was not an act of surrender. It was a declaration. A final, brilliant move in a game she was destined to lose. We will uncover the answer. We will walk with her through those final, fateful hours. The sun rose over Alexandria on that August day. It was a reluctant dawn. The golden light, which once promised glory, now felt like a spotlight on a tragedy. Down below, the great city held its breath. The sounds of the harbor were muted. The usual morning chaos of merchants and sailors replaced by a heavy, anxious silence. Roman soldiers patrolled the streets. Their sandals echoed on the marble, a constant reminder of the new power that had come. The air was thick with the scent of sea salt and jasmine, but underneath it all was the metallic tang of fear. The world was changing. An era was ending. From the high walls of her mausoleum, a fortress, a tomb, Cleopatra watched the light touch her city. She was no longer in her grand palace. She was a prisoner. A magnificent, revered prisoner, but a captive all the same. The stones around her were cool to the touch, meant to preserve her body for eternity, yet now a cage. Inside the mausoleum, the air was still and heavy. It smelled of incense, myrrh, and the dust of ages. Torches flickered in their sconces. Shadows danced, mocking the stillness. She stood, solitary, draped in fine linen. Her beauty etched with sorrow and sleepless nights. Her loyal attendant, Iras, moved about her silently. Charmian moved about her silently. Their devotion was absolute. They were not merely servants. They were the last remnants of her court, final witnesses to a dynasty's collapse. Cleopatra walked to a small table. On it lay a papyrus scroll, a letter from Octavian, the man who had defeated her. The man who now controlled her destiny. His words were cold, pragmatic. He offered her life. He promised her safety. But she could read between the lines. She knew his promises were hollow. He did not see a queen. He saw a trophy, an exotic curiosity to be paraded through the streets of Rome in chains. A symbol of his ultimate victory. The thought sent a tremor of defiance through her. This was not just any queen, Cleopatra VII, Philopator, Thea, a scholar who spoke 9 languages, a diplomat who charmed 2 of Rome's most powerful men, a mother who fought for her children's future, and a goddess, the living embodiment of Isis. Yet, on this morning, a woman cornered by fate. The weight of 3,000 years rested on her shoulders, and she knew she would be its final chapter. The name of Mark Antony was a constant echo in the stone chamber. She remembered their first meeting in Tarsus. She arrived as Venus on a magnificent barge. He had been utterly captivated. Theirs was a love born of passion and politics. They dreamed of an Eastern empire, a new world with Alexandria as its heart, a world for their children. Now that dream was ash. Antony was dead. He had died in her arms just days before. Believing a false report, he fell on his sword, a clumsy, agonizing end for a lion of battle. His ragged breaths were spent with her. He warned her not to trust anyone around Octavian. His death was the final blow. It sealed her fate. Without him, her armies were broken. Her political power was gone. Octavian, so different from Caesar or Antony. He was cold, calculating, patient. He dismantled their base, turned allies, and made Rome fear and hate her. The city that once celebrated her as a living goddess was now subdued, occupied. Some advisors already courted the new master. They saw the future, and it was Roman. She could not escape. She could not fight. She would not be their spectacle. The choice was not made in a moment of despair. It was a calculated, strategic decision, a final act of queenship. For weeks, she contemplated the end. She studied poisons, consulted physicians, methods swift and painless. Not surrender to fate, but a plan to control her narrative for eternity. She knew the victors would write history, but she would craft an image no record could erase. She needed something purely Egyptian, gods and royalty, Not Roman steel, not common poison. The answer was in myth, the uraeus, the upright cobra of pharaohs, divine authority, sovereignty, protection. Its bite promised not a vulgar death but gentle sleep, a peaceful passage judged by Osiris, welcomed into paradise. A Roman sword was for soldiers, a cup was for the disgraced, the sacred asp's bite was for royalty, a divine passage. With her mind resolved, a strange calm settled. She called for a scribe. Her voice was steady. She sent a final message to Octavian, not a plea, not negotiation, but a statement, a royal decree. Her wish to be buried beside Mark Antony. Humble words, laden with meaning, and a clever diversion buying precious minutes. She set the final sequence into motion. Before we continue, remember to subscribe to Legends and Lore. Click that like button and share this story so others can uncover the mystery. We asked earlier why Cleopatra chose such a specific, symbolic death. The answer lies not in surrender, but in ultimate control. Her final, masterful move on the grand chessboard of history. To understand her choice, we must understand her world, where gods and mortals walked together, symbols held power, and death was a transition. The asp, the sacred uraeus, was not suicide, but divinity. For 3,000 years it guarded pharaohs and linked them to Ra. By choosing the asp, she made a theological and political statement. Not a defeated mortal, but a goddess in transformation. Romans expected the sword, or common poison. He never anticipated this. Something deeply Egyptian he could not co-opt or control. Octavian could control the record, but she would control the myth. Mysterious, exotic, unforgettable. From political failure to tragic heroine, to goddess of love and sorrow. A public relations act so brilliant that we still speak of it 2,000 years later. The time had come. The message to Octavian was on its way. The sun descended, orange, then purple. Cleopatra turned from the window. Her face was serene. She instructed Iris. She instructed Charmian. It was time for her final ceremony. They brought forth her royal robes, the sacred vestments of Isis, linen white as the desert sun, adorned with intricate gold thread, scenes from the afterlife. They bathed her in lotus, anointed her with precious oils, combed her long dark hair and braided it with pearls. The kohl, dark, dramatic, a master's hand, the iconic look that mesmerized Caesar, Antony. This was not vanity, it was creating an image, preparing for a royal viewing. A guard brought a small basket, covered in fig leaves, a gift from a country farmer. The guards, unsuspecting, allowed it through. Inside, Charmian took the basket and pulled back the leaves. Coiled beneath the sweet dark fruit lay a small, dormant serpent, an Egyptian cobra. The asp. It was here. The instrument of her ascension had arrived, humble and hidden. There was no fear, only solemn acceptance. She asked for privacy. Now, only she and her two most trusted companions remained. The three stood together, a silent trinity at the end of an age. The world outside faded away. Cleopatra sat upon a golden couch. She was no longer a prisoner. She was a queen, holding court one last time. She thanked them for unwavering loyalty, for their friendship. They were her sisters in this final hour. The ancient accounts differ, arm or breast. Legend favors the breast, closer to the heart. She held the serpent against her skin. The venom began its work, not violent, creeping paralysis, a gentle descent into an endless sleep. She lay back. Her breathing grew shallow. A cold numbness spread. Iris fell at her feet, having taken poison herself. She would not outlive her queen. Charmian, pragmatic to the end, straightened the diadem, perfect, even in death. Octavian's men burst in, alerted by her message, only to find a silent, majestic tragedy.
Charmian, was this a right and noble thing? With her last breath she replied, "It is most noble, and fitting for a queen descended from so many kings."
Then she too collapsed, and the room fell silent. So ends the mortal life of Cleopatra. But her story was just beginning. Octavian was furious, denied his greatest prize. He could not parade her. He granted her final wish, buried with royal honors beside Mark Antony. But he could not bury her legend. The asp's mystery took on a life of its own. So ends the mortal life of Cleopatra, but her myth endures. For 2 millennia, poets, playwrights, artists, Shakespeare, Shaw, Hollywood, seductive temptress, brilliant strategist, tragic lover, feminist icon, she is all and none. Her true self is veiled by time and by the legend she helped create. She faced the end not with a whimper, but with a brilliantly staged finale. She chose to become a legend. The last Pharaoh of Egypt became an immortal queen of the human imagination. Mysteries linger. Was it truly an asp or a poisoned pin? Some even question the tale. But the legend remains, a testament to a woman who, even in defeat, found a way to win, a way to live forever. Thank you for joining us on Legends and Lore. Do not forget to subscribe, like this video, and share the story of Cleopatra. Let her myth continue to inspire, to question, and to fascinate for generations to come.